Our next speaker, I think we're going to dive a little bit more into the technology side of this. The smart communities and smart cities we develop create an immense amount of data, an immense amount of information. And we as humans can't comprehend all of that information on our own. Esri is an organization that does a great job at helping us to visualize this information through GIS and through other data layers, through incredible analytics to make this data understandable to ourselves. And we're lucky today to have Mansour Raad, who is the global chief technologist for Esri, to talk a little bit about their work. So welcome.
My name is Mansour. I'm the global chief technologist at the Esri. I've been with the Esri for 24 years. I work in professional services, and what I'm going to be talking to you a lot about today is actually the boots on the ground that we've been doing at the Esri when it comes to smart cities. So this is not something unusual for us. We've been doing it for quite some time. The concept of smart actually changed a lot of things, and actually it means a lot of things for different people, right? If you look at it, you have smart parks, smart planning, smart engineering, smart cars, smart beds, and stuff like that. In this talk that I'm going to be talking about, I'm going to be mostly focusing about geospatial information and how we're going to bring location to make things smart. So I don't know if we're going to put it in your bed to become smart or other things, but I'm going to be focusing on other aspects of smartness in here. And in government especially, you cannot ignore geolocation and space. It's kind of fundamental. It's not an afterthought. It is always first thing. And it involves itself in different pyramids, in different silos, if you think about it. There's the citizens that are going to be involved in the whole thing. Infrastructure has a lot of geolocation. Environment goes without saying. And of course, technology advancement like machine learning and AI, especially right now, that is happening. That we're going to be talking about a lot later on today. But these things can happen with four foundation of technology, and I want to talk to you guys about in here. And as I said, we're going to bring in real life experiences that we've done, and I want to share with you these implementation of these technologies to help achieve what we call a smart city in here. So they are kind of like the planning, the operational, the data-driven, and of course the civic engagement. These are very important. When it comes down to planning, this is very important when it comes down to sustainability, green infrastructure, 3D, and we're going to fuse a lot of this information together to help us achieve better planning. And we use this, for example, at Sacramento, to help us out with bike sharing, right? We'll be able to give you statistically significant location where best to place the bikes based on fusion of demographic and usage of data. We used it we use it actually right now in Manatee County in Florida with global warming and all the other climate change. They are actually watching the sea rise scenario, what areas are being affected by it. In Georgia, where I live, actually next to the city of Johns Creek, they're starting to test autonomous cars, and they want to be able to put out in a racetrack for this scenario in there. So again, where to plan all these things. And of course, my favorite is, which is about to happen here actually in Raleigh, that actually we've done it in Boston, Massachusetts, is urban planning, right? I was talking to Jim, he's telling me today, the city of Raleigh, imagine that as a visual. Every day there's a Peter Pan bus with 60 people that is being dropped off in downtown. Imagine that, right? It's being dropped off in downtown Raleigh, right? Every day. And on that bus, nobody's getting on. People are just coming in. So imagine this happening. This is what's happening to your city right now. How do we plan for this thing? Thank you for that analogy, Jim. That was awesome. But I think that makes it, right? If you think about it, right? How can we plan for all this? And they're using a tool called urban planning. Urban, actually, it's an application called Urban to help with this demographic change, with the shift of growth of people movement, and help the city planners with this whole thing. And what it's creating is creating what we call a digital twin of the city. And what we're doing, when we're doing that, we can create what-if scenarios and help with the review process of different activities that are happening. In the city of Boston, when they use this urban planning application, there's about 80 projects per year going on, like massive, massive project going on at the same time. Creating this digital twin and be able to create these what-if scenarios is a big, important scenario, and that helped out the city here. And we're going to be using urban in Raleigh to help with this new migration, not migration, migration is the wrong word, but this new infusion of new people coming into the city. Second pillar that we're really excited about is, of course, is operational efficiency, right? When it comes down to field mobility, asset management, and inspection, and data collection. And again, in this particular scenario, we helped out with, for example, Palm Beach with the mosquito outbreaks, right? How do we go out with actually collect from the field mosquitoes and, not mosquitoes, actually activities of mosquitoes. How, for example, in the city of St. John, we're connecting directly to the SCADA system. We're talking directly to the facility. We're retrieving the data and be able to make intelligence decision on facility. How, for example, in Johns Creek, again, next city where I live in Atlanta, Georgia, how they're using to collect all the data and open up to the public, right? And so they're engaging all kind of activities. And of course, at the city of Iowa, in Iowa DOT, they're actually taking all the bridge information and making it publicly available. And how they make it publicly available? Not through traditional website. They actually put a story about bridges and what is happening to each one of them. So again, exposing all this information in a expressive way is something that is very important. So this is what makes it so nice. In the city of Pasadena, to manage the Rose Bowl parade, 700,000 people show up every year in the city of Pasadena, where they're watching all these floats and keeping this the city blooming. One of the big issues here is, of course, is safety. The fire department is very worried about fires, of course, and emergency responses. The FBI is there, and other homeland security. All these have to collaborate together to give a better experience and more enjoyable environment where they want to be operating on. And of course, exposing this in a beautiful operational dashboard in such a way that everybody sees what's going on to make smart executive decisions in here. Now again, when it comes down to smartness, what I'm excited about here is where I come in very well is in data-driven analysis, right? And so now with the advent of big data, we can start receiving practically everything and keeping everything. Volume, velocity, and variety. Now this is not a problem anymore. We can collect all this. We have the infrastructure to store it, and not only that, to process all that. The days of traditional data stores are gone, ladies and gentlemen. Now you don't keep 6 months of data in your relational database and you throw away or you put it on a USB drive, because guess what's going to happen? You will think that on a USB drive you will bring it back 6 months from now to be able to analyze it, right? That's always the idea. Guess what? Ain't gonna happen, right? You're not gonna take that USB drive and put it back in because you don't have the storage for it. Those days are gone now, right? Now, through the big data infrastructure and the data collection, you can keep everything and analyze every single part of information and fuse it with other information to create what I call derivatives. This big data derivatives is what gives us the insight and this beautiful scenario in here. And when we start combining that with machine learning and artificial intelligence, really things become very, very cool in here. So for example, we've done that in Cobb County. This is a project that I assisted with. You're seeing all these projects in Georgia, of course. That's because they're in my backyard, right? And so it's easy for me to go down from Atlanta and go to Atlanta to Cobb and start working that. This project actually was really an awesome project that we worked on, where they have SunTrust Park. When the Braves play, they want to make sure that the park is, that everybody from the park can get to their car and get out of the park within 45 minutes, right? That is the directive to get everybody out. So how do we do that in a smart way? And so for this one, we actually went ahead and used cameras. And the policemen previous experience to help him with closing and opening traffic for pedestrian versus cars. And that was really the pioneering thing. What we did there, we took the officer's experience by looking at the cameras, and based on his experience and how to look at 1, 2, 3 cameras in different locations in the park, he can now turn on and turn off the traffic to say, cars now go, pedestrian go. Well, guess what? That officer has been on the job for quite some time and he wants to retire. Can we take that experience and assist, not replace? Very important here, right? We're not going to replace. We're going to assist a new junior officer with this experience that this older officer has, this more experienced officer has. And that's what we did. We worked actually at this point with IBM Watson at the time, that was 2 years ago, with Cobb County, where we went and we collected data. We literally physically, I stood on the field with my son, and we stood there and we literally collected people, we took camera people, high people, low people, medium people, density. It was not actually counting, it was a gut feeling that we had to translate. And based on the sequence of this gut feeling that the officer had, he will then turn off and turn on that. So we taught the machine via collector. We sat there in the corners, me, my son, and a couple of interns. We sat at a game, we went to a couple of games, and we literally tagged, and we said high, low, and then we taught the machine to do that. And now, the machine, artificial intelligence, machine learning, is assisting with this process at Cobb County, with the closing and opening of the highway for people to crossing. So very good potential. They're ready for the future, and hopefully they will implement that solution very soon when this will happen. So very, very, very cool things. So cameras are starting to become very powerful in what we're doing because we cannot throw sensors everywhere. And you can imagine what you can do with camera. So what we did, and this was we ended up spending, it was a little bit hairy. I've been doing this for 30 years, and guess what? You never do live demos, right? And guess what I'm about to do? I'm about to do a live demo, something that you're never supposed to ever do in front of a live audience. But just in case, I want to show you what we did We went ahead and we took cameras from the field, and we passed it, we fused a bunch of technologies together. One of them is the NVIDIA GPU cards to be able to take stream of data, and we passed it through the city's already existing infrastructure, which is geo-event, and we're going to be turning it into an operational dashboard. And what we did is we did the following. We were able to, this is a video, but I'm going to show you now the real thing, which is basically now, we had three cameras at night yesterday when we were working, and we were able to now play and capture per video, if you kind of like Hollywood, the activities, and we track in every car that is walking into the particular, in a particular view, right? Isn't that cool? You would think that this is Hollywood, but actually this is now what we can do for real, dynamically live. Isn't that neat? So this is live. As I said, you're never supposed to do this. This is the operational dashboard. We took that camera stream. We have actually four cameras going on here, right? This is actually up in Six Forks, correct, Jim? This is up in Six Forks, right? The camera on the lower side. We turned this into a beautiful operational dashboard. We took this NVIDIA object detection collection, where remember that little squares that were happening? We're collecting that, dynamically collecting all this. We're pushing this through our geo event at the city here, and we're turning this into a beautiful, what we call operational dashboard, reflecting everything that is happening, right? Isn't that gorgeous? This is live happening, collecting, locating object from 4 cameras, sensors, live sensors, and reflecting that into beautiful, what we call expressive applications. And what you're seeing here is the average over 15 minutes of the number of cars that we're seeing overall in the whole 4 cameras. Whew, that worked. No egg. Awesome. So I want to thank the city here for helping out with this demo. We really were working on this for the last week or something like that. We all got together, us, NVIDIA, Esri, the city, to push all this together. Thank you, Justin, for putting this ops dashboard, and Jim, thank you for your leadership in this beautiful experience in here. In the final step in this presentation of mine, which is what I call civic inclusion, right? So the fourth pillar in this whole thing, actually the final thing, okay? We've been talking about technology, data, we've been talking about infrastructure, but also this does not do anything if you're not smart, if you cannot push this back to the citizens, right? And that is really the final pillar of technology in this whole thing. How do we take into account humans in crisis? How do we take into account the demographic? How do we push this information back? And again, what we've done is we've taken it to, we've implemented this in several places. For example, senior citizen accessibility in Cobb County, right? How do we give senior citizen better access to the infrastructure that we have? What is the level of happiness, of stress in, for example, Pennsylvania based on different demographic indices, right? Where better to place bicycles and all that stuff in there. But what I'm really excited about the art of the possible, especially with the same vein that we talked about, I want to give you a beautiful example of this application in here, where through, again, machine learning, we can turn mundane pictures that we have into what I call actionable information, right? So here's a camera sitting there that we could be using for other things, but imagine the civic engagement where we can detect parked cars, but more importantly, available parking. Right? Isn't that amazing? Right? So this is now what is the art of the possible right now, where we can now take this information and push it back, right? In the form of, for example, parking Raleigh. I don't know. This is an application that somebody has to develop here. We'll work with the kids here to develop this web application to push out, and with the collaboration with the DOT, get this information and now turn it into actionable scenario, right? Where there's a parking. Tell me how to get to it. I know where I am. Give me the best routing based on current traffic condition to park in that information in here. Isn't that cool? But again, you can look at it also, wait a minute, I can turn it into, wait a minute, there's only 20 parking here and kind of augment smart meters. Right? So this is now the art of the possible with this back and forth with these scenarios in there. Isn't that pretty cool? I think this is pretty neat and very, very forward thinking on how we can now collaborate and take advantage of these capabilities right now to be able to make our city smarter. I'd like to finish up here remind you of the 4 pillars of how we can make on a geospatial smart cities, right? The city planning, the data-driven environment, the operational efficiency, and the civic inclusion. And this is all has to do with location for us at Esri. We're a little bit biased because location is everything for us, but we believe it is one of the driving forces to make a smart city. I'd like to dedicate this presentation to my son, Colin. It's his birthday today, 17. Happy birthday, Colin. Thank you. Thank you, everybody, for, sorry, I got choked up a little bit. Forgive me. I'm going to be seeing him later on today. We're going to have a big, huge birthday party for him and stuff like that, so I'm excited. And with this, my name is Mansour. I'm the Global Chief Technologist at Esri. Thank you for attending the session. Thank you. Yes?
Hey, thank you for the great presentation. Pardon my voice here. I couldn't quite read all of the fields on your live demo, so can you maybe walk us through? And I don't want to put stress on putting that thing back up on again, because you really did have pretty good luck with that demo.
Let me bring it back up again.
Tell us more about what decisions then the city can or is already making with that kind of data.
Right now, we're just taking the data raw, right? And we're starting to count objects, right? This POC, we started it literally 3-4 days, like literally this week last week before we came in here. But what we can envision with this now counting and object detection, we can start detecting other entities, trucks, bicycles, cars. And now, not only that, if we fuse that with other geospatial information, for example, like lanes, now we can now identify per lane what exactly is going on. So this quote-unquote static information can become dynamic information in such a way that now we can really see what is truly going on flow-wise in the city by just from cameras at this point. And then you can imagine other things. You're not looking at one location, but now again, how we in GIS, we look at things holistically at the whole city, rather than just looking at one intersection by itself. Imagine now fusing this information from other cameras, from other cities, and watching that whole flow from other things. Now you can get what we call really the heartbeat of a city of what's going on. Kind of interesting, right? And again, because of big data, we can keep that heartbeat going on in such a way that I can turn it into statistical information to be able to do better classification, better regression, for better planning and all these scenarios.
Can you explain a little bit about the adoption of this? Like, for instance, are you seeing this, if you take the top 50 cities in the United States, are all 50 cities approaching this, or just 20%? A little bit about adoption in the U.S. and a little bit about adoption outside the U.S.
Just very good question. So this project, we're already doing it right now. With Raleigh is a very avant-garde, and they have the infrastructure to do it. We're already doing that, and we already did that in D.C., and we're doing that with D.C. and in Arizona and Maricopa County. Great story here. Of course, I just came back from Dubai and Abu Dhabi. We're doing that over there. But again, if you look at where we're doing that kind of scenario with very avant-garde countries and cities where they're willing to take a chance on these new ideas. And so it is happening, and it's not like totally there, right? But it's starting to happen right now because why? Hardware is starting to get cheaper. Software is starting to get better, right? And technology is catching up, like what you saw with the parking application. The algorithms is starting to become more powerful to be able to help with that. So literally Moore's law is coming in to help us out with this adoption of these new things that potentially before I could not think of potentially happening. So yeah, so it's going to happen, and we're going to see a rise in the whole thing. For example, Iowa, we're doing it for snowplow. And what we want to do is we help out, we're going to put GoPros on snowplows during the snow season to be able to help out detect what is the snow condition on the road. We did that for the City of Raleigh to be able to detect using GoPro potholes on the road. Right? And so and all this is because of advancement in hardware, software, algorithms coming in to make these things that before we're like, oh, practically impossible, but now it's been democratized and we want to preach it.
Let's thank Mansour again.
Well, thank you. Thank you, everybody, and happy birthday, Colin.